Greetings, nerds. Let's explain oil paint and correct some misnomers that are within this hobby. So, a lot of people will call Winsor & Newton Winton an artist paint. This is a misnomer. This right here is actually a student paint. Artist is a grade. So, let's discuss grades for a moment here. There are two different types of grades, while four technical grades. You have student and professional. Professional is sometimes called studio or artist. For instance, with a professional grade of Winsor & Newton, they're calling this artist's oil color, which means this is the professional one. While with Lucas, they're calling it 1862 and the finest artist color. Gamblin, artist oil color. This is one of the tricks that a lot of people don't realize, is that artist means professional grade. Now, when we get to the other technical grades, you have in between, for instance, the student grades and the professional grades, and then you have premium grades. In between the student grades and professional grades, you have things like Utrecht and Blick, which are pretty good oils for the price, as they're closer to they list them as studio. Studio generally going to be something of the nature of an in between of professional and student. As I said, studio is sometimes called professional, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is a good professional brand. With professional, you have Gamblin, which is pretty much the bog standard. That's the test bench for what is considered a good, just valuable oil in professional. Then you have premium, which you would typically have something like Michael Harding or Lux as your base for that. Williamsburg is another one. Old Holland is another one. Like, what would this be? Now, when it comes to price to performance, this is actually where it gets really, really weird. The best price to performance is typically going to be something like the studio things. These right here are going to be good enough for most people. However, if we ignore those, because not every store carries them, that's going to be a store brand thing. The best price to performance isn't going to be these. It's going to be the professional stuff, like Gamblin or Lucas here. These two are really cheap, and you get a really good bang for your buck compared to these. The major difference between the student and the professional here is that the pigmentation on this is going to be much, much higher, and then this is going to have a lot more wax to it. So you're actually going to be fighting yourself more trying to use this. Now, because we're talking about miniature painting and using oils for it, we have to also include oil washes and dot filters here. When we talk about dot filters, you will actually have to fight with Winton more than you will with the professional brand. And you're going to have to remove more of this, but you also have to use less of this. So a small tube is going to last much longer than a large tube in reality, especially when it comes to oil washes, where a typical oil wash with a Winton is going to be something of a 5 mineral spirit to 1 oil ratio, while with a professional, you're looking at 15 up to 25 mineral spirit to 1 oil paint ratio. So you get a much better performance out of these. You get a much better bang for your buck as well. So yes, you do pay a lot more up front, but you get a overall better experience as well and a better paint. Now, when dot filters, as I was talking about before, the higher wax content in something like Winton and Van Gogh, which both of these are student grade, and the lower pigmentation means you're actually going to you're going to get more subtle effects, and it's going to be much harder to get the effect that you're looking for when you try to go up. Now, you have hobby paints like Abteilung and Wilder where they're quick dry, and that's not a thing you typically will want with them. Now, Lucas here, this has a cicative in it. It's a silica cicative, not a cobalt cicative, thankfully. So it is quick dry. What a quick dry typically will be is something like this Gamblin Cadmium Orange here. This is a fast matte, so it's matte, and it's really quick drying. This is an alkyd. You can get that same effect by adding things like this walnut alkyd right here. Oop. I didn't have it prepared. This walnut alkyd is going to be something that will speed things up. You can get very quick drying times out of it. Another thing is liquin. Now, while these things aren't great for archival purposes on canvas, they don't matter as much on a miniature or a scale model because you're on a more solid surface. Now, liquin I don't typically recommend, and I have a giant bottle of it because this stuff has very noxious fumes to it. But when you're working with very small amounts, a little bit of this isn't going to be that big of a deal, but just be warned, it does contain turpentine, so have a well-ventilated area if you're using it in a prolonged setting. While this right here, this doesn't smell like cancer. It smells like old furniture. And that's really the basics of oil paint stuff. We'll get more into oil paint as we go on with this channel, but I wanted to make a quick thing about grades and some of the basics that people get wrong about oil paint. Anyways, something, there's a Discord link in the description. If you want to support the channel, you know, stuff like that, great. Buy or something. I don't know how to end videos. Nobody's told me a good way.